Hello everyone, Anirban here, and welcome to the ScienceOverse Expert Panel discussion episode 2. And today we have with us Shagun ma'am. And hello everyone, I'm Anirban, and I'm the uh, coordinator of the Astronomy and Astrobiology Department of ScienceOverse. And without further ado, let's get started. So, hello ma'am, thank you so much for joining this discussion here with me. And my first question to you would be obviously introduce yourself and tell us about yourself and what you do and how you got here.
All right, thank you so much, Anirban. First, for having me here, and second, for letting me talk about the topic which is very close to my heart, and I'm very passionate about when it comes to outer space law and international law. So, thank you for that. And my name is Shrawani Shagun, and it happens with everyone that they most of the time forget my first name, which is perfectly okay. So, not an issue. And introducing myself is a bit complicated at times because I often get amazed from where to start and where to end. But a little bit about me would be that I am currently a researcher. I'm writing my doctoral thesis on space law. And also, I'm national point of contact at the Space Generation Advisory Council. In addition to that, I am quite active when it comes to any conferences as related to space law at international forums and writing, contributing through this scholarly writing. So that's a bit about me currently. And how I got here is a very interesting thing because it was never in my mind that I would do something related to space law. And I always believe that there is a law of attraction. Sometimes, sometimes you choose a field to work on, sometimes the field chooses you. So probably I fall in the second category. So yeah, that's how I am here and I'm doing space law.
Okay, that was such an interesting thing to hear. Sometimes the field chooses you. So
Right.
yeah. So first of all, you are doing something that is very odd combination. Pardon me if I put that in that weird sense. So yeah, space and law. I have never thought about these two fields can merge. Of course, that's a lacking in my part. But yeah, so could you introduce to us what space law actually is? And if someone wants to get there, someone wants to become a space lawyer or a professional in space law, what path that person should take?
Sure, that's a very interesting question, I would say. For the reason to start, talking about the space law itself gives me, or anybody, if anybody is talking about space law, first thing that person would think about is the scientist, science, engineers. But last, or probably they would never think about the lawyers, which is very sad. However, that's the harsh reality. We have to accept it. That law has to do a lot when it comes to outer space. And defining space law, what exactly is a space law? So the law that governs the activities, human activities in the outer space, that is a space law. So we have Outer Space Treaty of 1967. Now the history of Outer Space Treaty itself is very interesting that I will talk a bit in a while. And then we have Liability Convention. If there is any damage due to the space object, then there will be the absolute liability of the state. So that is of 1972. Then we have registration agreement, we have rescue agreement, and we have also Moon Agreement of 1979. So these are the main treaties, foundation, we can say, of space law. However, there are other resolutions and guidelines, and then International Telecommunication Unit that is there. But law people and even law is often ignored when it comes to activities of outer space. That has been, a practice. However, I'm glad that it is changing. It is changing at international forums, and so you see, even in India, you would see many people are now talking about a space law. So if I talk about my bachelor's time, I probably I did not even know, even though I did my law for 5 years, I did not even know that there was something called a space law. So we were introduced to international law, and like many other students, I also find it very boring when I was in my bachelor's. It was in my master's that I did from University of Delhi, a little bit of exposure about international law. Still, there was no clue about space law. And I'll share a very small story about how I landed up actually in the space law thing. So I initially, when I was a kid, I always dreamt of becoming a judge, nothing else. So my mother always tells me this story that, when you were 1 year old, 1.5 years, you started speaking and someone would say कि बड़े होकर के क्या बनोगे? So I used to say, मैं जग बनूंगी. So from jug to judge, I corrected it, right? So then I grew up, lots of things that I got to know, कि there are other options also. But I was strictly, I want to be a judge, nothing else. So obviously to be a judge, you have to qualify the law. So I get into law. And then suddenly when I saw that there are other fields that I could explore. Unfortunately, I couldn't qualify for judiciary. Now I do not have any regret currently that, sometimes you do feel that, you couldn't achieve what you always wanted to be, but probably there is always a reason. Then the second thing that I always enjoyed was teaching, talking to students, making people aware of something they do not know. I was very passionate about during my school time also. I used to, we used to play teacher. You go into the juniors class, you teach them. So that I found out that, yes, this is an interesting field and this is probably I should do. And obviously, you have to do PhD also, as UGC required few years ago. However, that is now no more a condition, mandatory condition. So then I enrolled in PhD, and I always then thought of going abroad for doing a PhD. I never wanted to do it in India, but unfortunately, there are certain circumstances when you are not able to do what you wanted to do. And I was just sitting there that what should I do? Because I really want to do something interesting, something no one has done. I want to prove myself and all those thoughts. And then my brother came to me and he said, he just started talking about space tourism. That was the time in 2020, 2021, that space tourism newspaper every day used to have, one or another article related to space tourism. So then I thought, okay, there is something called a space law. I have a very blurred memory related to. Started digging deeper and understanding, and then I came up with the idea. And I'm very glad that I met a professor who supported my proposal, and then that's how I came here. So that there is a space law, there has a nexus to do with the space law. There is a requirement of lawyer when it comes to space law. So yes, it is weird, but combination because if we do not know, and it's not only you, there are many established professionals also who still is in awe when I talk about space law, and I'm doing my PhD and writing my doctoral thesis in that area. So especially when it comes to India, it is the case. I hope I answered the question. Did I miss anything? You could just ask me.
No, it was fine. One more thing. So if someone wants to get into space law, so what they need to do? What career paths should they take to do that?
So talking about the career path for space law, there is, these space research organizations. Nowadays, they are recruiting lawyers. I said when there is a boom and when there is a human activities that is rising in outer space, there is a requirement of lawyers too. Not only that, there is a lot of lacunas that are there in the existing legal framework that governs the activities in outer space. So in order to address those, we do need lawyers. So one can, join any of the research organizations or any space organization. One can choose academia, like I chose academia and research. And one can also be in-house counsel for such private actors. Now that there are many, including in India, we see there are so many private actors that they are working in the area related to outer space. So these are some of the career path they could choose, and about what exactly they should do about the space law, they have to study law. There is no other option.
So you'll have to be a person who is also interested in space as well as law. This
Right,
combination
right,
of a person you must be so that you can get into space law, right?
right. And also international law. So it
Yeah.
is not only space law, because space law is a part of international law. So you have to be I would not say expert, but at least you should know the nuanced. You should have a nuanced understanding of international law if you really want to ace space law.
Okay, I see. Yeah, this thing has
Yeah.
crossed my mind a few times that there must be something about some legal things about space because the other day I was hearing about the news that space debris has just crashed into someone's house and it has damaged his property. So, what would that person do to claim the property damage that has happened? Or there was a rumor when I was a kid. There used to be a rumor that Shah Rukh Khan has bought land in Moon, and I was like, if someone is buying land in the Moon, so who is selling the land? Whose property is? So this kind of thing I used to speculate about and thought that there has to be a regulatory committee about all this. So
Right.
yeah, my next question to you would be, considering the fact that we are currently seeing a rise in commercialization of space, there are private
Right.
companies who are providing space tourism, and then there are companies like SpaceX. They are providing rockets to launch payload into space. So when
Hmm.
these space treaties were drafted, did they anticipate that this kind of commercialization of space would be a thing? If they did, what limitations are there, or what relevance of space treaty holds with respect to the current rise in commercialization of space?
Right. So you said very interesting things that I will also address after answering this question about buying a property on the moon. So that's a very interesting thing to talk about. But to answer your question about the relevance and the limitation of the outer space law, so when we say outer space law, it's a bundle of law. Like I just named the treaties. So if I talk about the main foundation or the cornerstone of international space law, that is outer space treaty that came into force from 1967. Now, if we see the history and the reason why there was a need of or requirement of having something like that, when was the Sputnik one launched? If you know the year, you would probably connect the dots. That why there was need. Secondly, it is relevant certainly, and even however, there are limitations, and yes, I often talk about whenever I talk about the commercialization, when I talk about the environmental impact, I always refer that when treaty were drafted, when the negotiations were going on, no one could have imagined that outer space will be this crowded and there will be dominance of private actors in the outer space. So that was something it was difficult to imagine at that time. Now, talking about the why it is still relevant, and it will be relevant because one, outer space treaty is the foundation, and it talks about there are some of the key principles. For example, it promotes peaceful use. The words used in the treaty says that for the exploration for the peaceful purposes. That is one. Second, it prohibits the appropriation of celestial bodies. So that means that no one can go and own the celestial bodies, and no state will can claim the sovereignty over the outer space. Third is that it also promotes the international cooperation. There are many more that I can talk about, but because I believe that audience will be mixed, so I'm just trying to limit myself so that everyone can easily understand it. So these are some of the most relevant key principles. Talking about the limitations, number one, that there is a lack of regulations of the private actors. it was not imagined, it was not anticipated, so there is no mention of that. Secondly, there is no clear mechanism, there is no clear provision about resource utilizations, and also in situ resource utilization, which is, I'll just explain in a very layman language, that being in outer space, you can exploit the resources there to make out of that something, make out of the sources that you have taken from the outer space itself. For example, you are in outer space for a long time and you are growing vegetables there. So that is in situ resource utilization. And there is no enforcement mechanism. So that is some of the limitations when it comes to outer space treaty.
Okay, ma'am. So, yeah. My next question would be a bit related to that. And this is also concerning the rise in private companies in space. So my next question is, considering the fact that these companies have kind of limitless access to space, we see that these satellites that they launch, it often jeopardizes the ground-based observations, not only for professional astronomers, but also for amateur astronomers like us. So the problem is, I have seen that the Starlink satellites are currently everywhere. So I take my telescope to my roof or to an open area, and whenever I'm adjusting my telescope, I just look at the sky and see that there is a satellite. So I open my Star Map app and I see that it's a Starlink satellite. Most of the time, it's a Starlink satellite. So yeah, these satellites are causing a bit of problem for ground-based observations and ground-based astronomers also. So do you see any resolution to this problem, that how we can at least get rid of this problem or limit this problem?
Okay. That's the question that you are concerned about is a concern of almost everyone related to space. I must say that. Now, getting rid of the problem, first we have to identify if it is a problem. And is there a provision, if there anything that what they are doing is not allowed to do? That is something that we first identify. When we see the provisions of Outer Space Treaty and following treaties, you would find it very clearly that there is nothing that stops them from what they are doing. Secondly, it is the responsibility of the state. For example, in this case, it's the United States of America. So they can probably, control or regulate. And it is actually concerning that almost 60% of the current satellites are owned by this Starlink. So that is certainly a matter of concern, not only for the astronomical activities and others related, also for the pristine environment of the outer space. And it also raises a concern that to what extent and till when. There is also a concern related to Kessler syndrome. And because more and more satellites there will be one is related to another, that there will be a debris, there will be the amount of debris that will be in the outer space, then there are chances. And it was long back in during 1980 when it was predicted that it may cause a Kessler syndrome, that one will start colliding, then probably the lower Earth orbit where most of the satellites are, that will be unstable. So that is a matter of concern due to many regions, not only related to us. So that is one aspect, one concern, but there are multiple concerns related to that. And also about what the case that the incident that you were referring to was related, happened in Florida. So and then it has been settled probably. So obviously there is a provision related to that, there will be compensation that will be given. So there are very few, but that is few till when we do not know. Maybe someday we are just walking on the road and something like 10 kg debris will fall on a human, and there are possibilities. So we need to think about it, and the resolution could only be through, a few, I would say, without going much deeper into the law part, but a relative, there should be a stricter licensing standard, because it's a state that they grant license. There should be agreement, international cooperation, that outer space treaty and other resolutions promote that there should be agreement for placing the satellites. There should be a restricted number of satellites that is allowed, or beyond that, there should be something mutually agreeable to all the states. That is only then only probably this problem can be solved, and also to consider the environmental impact of these launch and the number of satellites that are in the outer space. And the environment must not be only taken in the context of earth or outer space, but both. So that is something that I would propose could be a resolution, but it can only be possible when all states come up on the same page.
Yeah, it kind of ruins astrophotography. It many a times it has ruined my Milky Way shots. Like we have to take long exposure shots of the Milky Way or any other objects
Right.
on the night
I feel
sky.
sorry for you,
And
Anirban, in that case, but it is the sad situation currently.
yeah, and we see that there is a streak of line, a streak of light that goes across the photo. And when we find out when we try to find out what this streak of light is, so we go to the star map and see what was there at that exact moment during when I was taking the shot, and it's a Starlink satellite. It has happened quite a number of times, and then there are big ground-based visual observatories. Like they also take long exposure shots for their data collection,
Right.
and
Right.
there also it the Starlink satellites ruins their images too. So this has increased many folds since past
Right.
10 years. So.
Hmm.
Okay, so my next question to you would be that see we have all seen sci-fi movies like 2001: A Space Odyssey, and where it shows that there is a moon base where humans it's kind of a human settlement there. Then we see that currently NASA is carrying forward with the Artemis missions, where they are looking forward towards creating a moon base so that we can explore our solar system back here. So, since we're talking about human settlements, what challenges do you anticipate that human settlements, what legal challenges do you anticipate that
Right.
human settlements might face on outside of Earth?
Right, right. So I will restrict anyway myself to legal challenges only. So about Artemis, see, even when you read the Artemis Accord, you will see it says that it is in accordance with the provisions of Outer Space Treaty. That's why I always said that we cannot really rule out the existence of Outer Space Treaty, because anything that is being done, even the state practice that is being set by different states, is in accordance with the Outer Space Treaty, although the interpretations are different. That is the point, because there is lacuna in the terms, or there is no clear interpretation available. States are at the liberty to define and interpret it obviously in their favor. Now, talking about the legal challenges regarding this, I have not seen that movie firstly, but probably I will do it today. So yes, I'd like to share a very very small incident. When I was in Vienna at World Space Forum last year. So what happened there? There were lots of people, many of them by their name. Obviously, being I'm working in the area, so I knew them. So when I was talking to one of the person, and I just said that Artemis is trying to colonize the moon and the outer space, so which is probably not okay. And then the person looked at me. Why it is not okay? So because then there might be some challenges. Okay, first, why did you use the word colonization? And they were all senior to me, and I was like, okay, I realized my mistake, that why they were offended with the so they would never agree that there is any kind of problem, because they were the drafters of Artemis Accord. Now, having said that, some of the legal say, let's imagine that, we Indians especially, we are grown up calling moon as our maternal uncle, right? Chanda Mama. From our child, we are grown up listening to so many Bollywood musics which romanticize the moon and outer space totally. Aao tumhe chand pe le jaye, tere vaste falak se chand launge, and all that. So we are also, we can also say that, where if we can have this kind of song, why can't we just go and bring some of the stars from the sky? So that we can also interpret it like that. So very few legal challenges that I would like to highlight could be, one, about the property rights, because if there will be human settlements, there are chances, fair and clear, that there will be a property rights. Secondly, about the resource utilizations. So because outer space treaty allows for the exploration, very clearly it has used, very smartly it has used the word exploration, not exploitation. But if the resource utilization will amount to exploitation or only exploration, and to what extent, is not clear again. Also, the jurisdiction conflicts, because we cannot really think that in any part of the outer space only the people from a particular country could be there. There is a possibility that multiple national people are there. So in case of dispute, which law will apply there? So these are a very few legal challenges that might arise if there will be human settlement.
So it might be the case that the myth that we have been hearing about Shah Rukh Khan buying land or moon might become a reality in future. That's what you're talking about. It might become a reality.
Yes, it might be a reality, but it will never be the case that any person is buying the land. So human settlement, again, if you are thinking that a private actors will go and own an acre of land on their name, that will not happen. By human settlement, what I referred was related to the nations are sending people, and they will be there for for a long duration. And I suggest you watch, and the audience watch the movie The Martian. Very good movie, and there's just one. Exactly. So there, there are possibility that, there was just one, there could be 10, there could be multiple. So there it is shown also the in situ resource utilization, the way he was growing the potato using his own this wastage. And if you have seen that movie, so that could be a reality. But buying a moon is it's not even a myth, it's a false it was a fraud. Let me tell you about the story about this, what it is related to. So I can't recall the year currently. So somewhere around say 2000, there was this person, Dennis Hope, and he was going through a lot in his personal life. He was divorced, he had no job, and he was just lying on the road one day, and he just looked at the star and thought, there is a lot of money, there is a lot of property. So who owns them? And out of curiosity, he wrote to UN that he just read a bit about it. He also found out that outer space treaty and any law that governs the activities of in the outer space applies to state, not to private actors. Very smart person, I must say. So he said that means it restricts the state, not to private actors. That means he can claim ownership over that. And then he wrote to UN that, because there is no one who claims the ownership, I declare myself as the owner of outer space and the moon. And when I say outer space, it includes all the celestial bodies, including moon. He wrote that he never heard from UN, and then he started selling the land. Not only that, he also sued NASA for such a smart people exist in this world. Imagine that he also sued NASA for landing a satellite in the area which he owned, of which he claimed himself to be owner. So that's how things, started spreading that Chand pe Zameen Bikhta hai, and there are many people who have been fooled. It was International Institute of Space Law. They came up with the resolution and rather notification that this is a fraud and no one can really do it. And time and again, people have been trying to, claim ownership, but outer space treaty strictly use the word non-appropriation principle. No one can, no state, no private access, no one can really do it. So that's the reality about the buying and purchasing land on moon or any other celestial bodies.
Let's see. Okay, so I have one curious question. Since we're talking about selling or buying land on celestial bodies and all that, so there is an issue which is slightly related to that. There was a startup I recently saw that they were asking monies for naming a star. Like if you pay them money and give them a name, they would name a star with that name. So how are they doing that? Is this anyway legal?
By naming a star, what does that mean? Say, for example, I say,
yeah. Should
yes,
I?
yeah, you were saying something. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, I saw a startup. I kind of forgot the name. They said that name a star
What
after
you are
yourself.
saying, yes. So Anirban, what you are saying is not wrong. And I also could name a very famous celebrity, Madhuri Dixit, who once was saying in one of the reality show that one of the fan named a star after me, Madhuri, and I was looking at her that how is that possible? Where? Is there a registry? Is there a something? Because as far as I know and I am aware of, United Nations doesn't do that. There is no other international body that can do it. So, it's just out of love or out of stupidity, whatever you prefer to choose, you could just say, for example, like I said, that we have so much romanticized these stars and moons and celestial bodies that, we talk about it. But to my knowledge and to my understanding, this is not legal. This is not possible. And even if a star is on your name, anyway, what are you going to do with that? You cannot do anything. So
they
it's
provide
better
a certificate. They provide a certificate along with the map where to find the star and with my name on it. That yeah, this star is named after me.
Just write to them that why don't you engrave my name on the star so that every time I see the star, I could say that, yeah, there, my name is right there. So that way it will be better. So, I mean, it's like even then Mr. Dennis Hope that I just talked about, he also used to give a very good registry document to the person. But the thing is that how many people go and find out on their own that is it really legal? Is it really happening? Can we really go and own them? How anyway are you going to claim your ownership over that? So these are some of the legal questions. Like I said, that outer space do need lawyers. Otherwise, it is not going to help and control the activities happening in outer space.
Now that I'm having the discussion, I'm feeling the same thing that outer space does need lawyers. Okay, right. So my next question would be a bit more concerning issue, and we have talked about this a few minutes ago. Since more and more countries are dipping their toes on this new space frontier, more and more space programs are getting funded, and as a result, it has a consequence that yeah, more and more space debris are being launched into the orbit. Like after the satellites are decommissioned or anything like that, there are more space debris right now orbiting the Earth. So, are there any legal, any laws that restrict the cleanup of restrict space debris or allow for cleaning up of space debris? Like you have the responsibility. If you are putting the debris there, then you have the responsibility to clean it up.
Right. So that's very interesting and relevant question, I must say. So outer space in general and specifically related to space debris is a classic example of tragedy of commons. Why I say that? Because when you see the or read the provisions of outer space treaty, you would see that it clearly states that it belongs to everyone. It's a province of all mankind. So it belongs to everyone and it belongs to no one in general. So it's a sad situation that it is such an important asset that if our daily life is, kind of dependent on the space technology, but it is suffering from that. And when we talk about the space debris, it should be the responsibility of all. However, it has been ignored from quite a considerable amount of time. And if I talk about the law, yes, there is a space debris mitigation guidelines by COOPUS. Then there is IADC. Then there are liability conventions, which talks about the liability in case of any damage due to the space object. Now it is again open for the interpretation if the debris would amount to space object or not. So it is very difficult to identify. So these are some of the concerns. There are guidelines, but unfortunately these guidelines are not binding. These are just the guidelines. So these are not binding. So there is no such effect that we see. That further necessitates the binding guidelines that is necessary. There should be. And at international, like I talked about World Space Forum and other international conferences where I have participated, we all talk about it. Unfortunately, we do not have a clear and a strong solution as of now. But I would say I'm positive that in very near future, we would have something related to that, and probably we would see the way the way sky used to look like. Maybe then you can get a clear picture as well.
Okay. So, yeah, what if someday a space debris damages my private property, like something from straight out of space, a man-made object, just shoots down my house and just breaks the ceiling, and it's a real thing. It happened in the United States. So yeah, what legal steps can I take to get compensation for that?
Right. What you said that it happened in US, it happened in Florida, and also there are cases from India. But that was in some field in some farm, which was so no damage as such happened. So if something like that happens with you or anyone you know, I would suggest on a very lighter note that consult a space lawyer, and you know one already now. So okay, so yes, if something like if there will be a damage, there are no clear, I would not say there, but if it is identifiable that from where that particular object has come, then obviously it is not directly that you are going to sue a particular space actor, but it is through the international the procedure that is there through the state. You could certainly will be granted compensation provided you have a good lawyer.
Okay, so my last question for the day is a little bit grim, on a grim topic, I would say. So, how does a space law restricts the militarization of space? Like, how does it prohibit the militarization of space? Or are there any
Right,
loopholes that can be
right.
utilized?
Yes. So both the answer to both the question would be yes. There is a law that is Outer Space Treaty. And when you see the history of Outer Space Treaty, you would see that this was the primary reason why Outer Space Treaty was agreed upon, and that came into the force because we do not want World War III, and in World War II that there was use of such weapons. If you know about the history, you must be able to understand and relate what I'm referring to. So yes, it clearly, and you see the word that is used in Outer Space Treaty exclusively for the peaceful purposes. The use of outer space shall be for the exclusively for the use of peaceful purposes. So obviously that restricts it, refrain it, prohibit it. And is there a loophole? Yes, again, there is a loophole that again, the interpretation. You are saying that no such weapon of, weapon of mass destruction will be put in the outer space. But then some object, for example, that's a very common example, chili powder. We use it in the food, but we can also use it to harm someone. If we throw in the eyes of some person, it can harm, and many other such things. So weapon of mass destruction, okay, understandable. We will not put something like that, but there could be any sharp, sharp knife or any such object which is not actually referred as weapon of mass destruction, but it can harm. So that interpretation is not very clear. So there are obviously possibility of misinterpreting it. However, we do not have such case in for a long time. So let's be hopeful that there will not be any misuse of the outer space, at least for this purpose.
So will a pistol be considered a weapon of mass destruction according to space law or this treaty?
Pardon me, I missed the word that you used.
No, will a pistol be considered a weapon of mass destruction according to this treaty?
That depends. I mean, it should be considered as a weapon of mass destruction, I would say. Certainly, why not? And also, to give a broader interpretation, it must be in the larger interest of the public. It must be. So I would be in the side of interpreting as a weapon of mass destruction, and but because there is no clear mention or any list that I could really refer to and tell you that no, Anirban, because it excludes that list. So I would say that it will not. So yeah.
So looking at the fact that the way technology is progressing, there is a lingering threat about someone can come up with a weapon, which is completely different from our what we see or consider as weapon, but it is a weapon, suppose. So then there is a lingering threat that that can be used in space, like it can become a loophole. It can serve as a loophole that the way you describe a weapon, this one doesn't fit into that category, but it is a weapon. It can cause harm. So
possibilities are there. Yes, that could be a possibility, but I believe no state would be doing that, because there is a larger interest of all the states that are in the activities of outer space. So believing and hoping that it is not going to be the case, but we cannot also deny that it can be, because there is a lacuna that lies there.
Of course. Like you can convert anything into a weapon. Like I can have I can beat someone up with this telescope. It can become a weapon. So,
why even that heavy? We can also use a pen. We can just put it in someone's eyes, and that is a weapon. Although pen is not no one can really imagine that pen can be used for that purpose.
So we have come to the end of this intriguing discussion. Thank you, ma'am, for joining this session. And to the audience, I would like to say, please like, share, and subscribe. There would be more such discussions coming up on this channel. And do follow us on Instagram, ScienceOverse. And thank you.
So thank you so much, Anirban, for having me. And I really enjoyed answering to the question. I hope that it helps to others as well to understand a few, to have a glimpse of what space law is all about.
Thank you so much for joining this session.
All right.